So let's go ahead and talk now to, this is Kim in the UK. You want to prove the existence of God, and you're certain you can do it, and you're on with Tracie and Jen.
Hi, Tracie. Hi, Jen.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Okay, what's on your mind?
Well, I believe I can prove the existence of God, but I also want to talk about other things.
Well, we only have a limited time here. We're not the Talk Heathen show, so we have limited time. So pick your topic.
Okay. Well, first I'd like to establish a definition of consciousness between us.
That'd be amazing, because I don't know that there is an established definition of consciousness, but lay it on me.
Well, I guess I believe consciousness is the state of being aware, and it's also a neurological pattern inside our mind, right?
I think that awareness in the brain, as far as I know, and I am like the ultimate layperson, as far as I know, conscious awareness in the brain can be mapped. So if we want to call that like a pattern in the brain, I'm okay with it, because we can tell when something in your head has reached a conscious aware level, at least in some areas, because I've read that. So, and then the other thing you said, I think, is just awareness, which I think, that's I'm okay with that. I mean, I think that awareness is fair enough good enough for government work. So let's proceed.
Okay. Well, I believe God is a state of consciousness.
Why?
Because I think it's linked to the limbic system of the brain.
Why?
To do with evolution and...
No, I mean, why do you believe that God is linked to any of this?
Because the concept of God manifests inside the human mind.
Well, so does the concept of lots of things, right? The concept of infinity, but I don't know that there's such a thing, and concepts of all kinds of monstrous things and wonderful things. And I mean, we just talked to a guy that reminded us that a concept of God can be just a personification of lightning. So, I mean, but that doesn't mean that Zeus exists.
That's why it's linked to the limbic system of the brain, though, because surely when they saw lightning, they labeled it as something because they were scared of it, or they didn't understand it.
Okay. So are we saying then are you basically saying that you define, you're going to relabel God as the concept of God that people hold in their heads? Because I don't take issue with that. I would probably agree.
I wouldn't say it's just that, though. I would say it's a pattern of thought that is like a state of consciousness. Yeah?
No, I'm not. I'm not on the train.
So, well, if it's a state of consciousness, how come we don't have that consciousness?
Well, no, I think he's saying that we do. He's just calling it God.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm like, I don't know, but I don't understand why.
I don't think we've quite got clear there.
Okay.
Well, the existence of God manifests inside the human mind, right?
As a concept or a pattern in our brain. Right. Is that what we're saying?
As a state of thought.
As a what?
As a state of thought.
A state of force?
Of thought.
Position of thought.
Oh, a state of thought.
Thought.
A state of thought. I mean, I guess I'm just wondering why we'd call it God.
Well, it's just a label, isn't it?
Yeah, but why use that label? Why not use whatever it's actually labeled?
Well, it is labeled God. I mean, sometimes people use the label.
Wait a minute. I've read. I'm not. I admit I'm a layperson, but I have read some papers written by neurologists and neuroscientists, and I have not yet seen them say that there's some sort of part of the brain that they label God, or some sort of thought or consciousness that they're labeling God. I have not yet seen that. I'm not saying that that's not correct. I'm just saying I've seen a lot of stuff referred to, and I haven't heard that label yet.
That's why I'm highlighting the limbic system of the brain for you to think about, right? Because it's a specific area of the mind.
Right, but it's a limbic system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would I call it God?
When someone uses the label God, is my point. Right? When someone uses that label, the definition is linked to the limbic system of the brain, to do with breath.
Is this like when they do the scans, the brain scans, where the people like think about God? Because Jen was just talking about when they were mapping like concepts of God to like people's brains when they think about what God thinks about, right?
Right.
And their brains map pretty much their own ideas onto the concept of God, whereas when they think about what other people think about, it's different than what they think, right? So are we saying that this is just that people who believe in God are just mapping a concept of a person in a way that reflects their views, and that it shows up in the mind that way, like shows up in brain mapping that way?
I'm not specifically talking about the Western God. I'm talking about the universal concept of God.
I don't think there is a universal
I'm sure
concept
there's
of
not
God.
a universal concept of God. I mean, we just talked to a guy that has a totally different view of what God means.
I'm trying to reach. I've got a lot to say, and if you cut me up, then it's difficult for me to explain what I mean, right? So, I guess what I'm saying is that the limbic system of the brain, right, it controls basic emotions like fear, pleasure, anger, right?
Okay.
And dominance. Yeah. Now, that also is the area where I think God manifests.
Okay, and
based on what?
Like, have they mapped this? Because there is some mapping of the brain that corresponds to people's thoughts about God. I don't deny that. I'm not sure it's in the limbic system, but if we're talking about mapping...
I'm proving the existence of God to you, aren't I?
No, you're proving that people think about God.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I could think about having a dog, and you could map that too, but I don't really have a dog, right? But I could be thinking about the dog I'm going to get next year when I get a bigger yard. But, I mean, the dog that I'm going to get doesn't exist, and I might not ever get a dog, but I could still think about it, and we could map where in my brain my fantasy dog is living, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
Okay.
But the concept of God is like the concept of dog, not the concept of a specific dog.
Right, okay.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Okay.
And dogs exist.
Well, dogs exist, but the dog I'm going to get next year doesn't. And I'm just saying that I can think about.
Okay, I'm not talking about a specific God. I mean.
Right, but what you seems like you're saying, what it sounded like you said, was that if I can dream it, it exists. And I don't think I agree with that.
I don't think that's what I mean.
Okay, then I've misunderstood, and I'm glad that we can clarify this. So if the dogs that exist are irrelevant to my concept of the dog, like if I can dream up a concept of an animal that doesn't exist, and that can be mapped in my brain, maybe dog was not a good example. If I dream up Bigfoot, you can still map where I'm thinking about Bigfoot. Doesn't mean there's a Bigfoot. Bigfoots, as far as I'm aware, don't exist.
I don't think you can map someone's concept of Bigfoot.
Sure you would. I have to think of it somehow, right? I mean, it's got to show up in my brain.
This is basically what they did with this study that I quoted after the previous caller. They put people in an fMRI machine, and they asked them questions about what they thought about certain social issues, what other people thought about certain social issues, and what their God thought about those issues. And it turns out that what they think and what their God thinks, those light up the same part of the brain.
Yeah, but it wasn't Bigfoot, was it?
No, but if I did start thinking about what does Bigfoot think, that would be a part of the brain, because they also asked these people, what did other people think?
Yeah.
And it was different. Okay, it didn't map to the same things they thought. And so if I started thinking, like, what would a Bigfoot think? Like, a Bigfoot would be a big animal, and it would probably be hunting like a gorilla, and then almost like a bear, too. Like, I would have my own concept of what a Bigfoot is and how it might think. And when I start thinking about, and the moment I start thinking, my brain is going to start activating, and it's going to be mappable. So my concept of the Bigfoot, or what the Bigfoot would think, would actually map. It would show up somewhere. And it's irrelevant whether or not a Bigfoot exists. Just like aliens, like things that don't live on the earth. I don't know what they are, but some people have a concept of them, right? Of aliens. And if they thought about aliens, they would have that concept showing up somewhere. And it's possible that there's like some people that share the same concept of an alien, like people that go to the UFO conferences and stuff, right? Would have probably a far more collective view of it. And I'm sure that they would probably have similar brain mapping, much more so than somebody like me that doesn't have like a really solid state thought about it. And there's just all kinds of different types of gods, but they don't. I mean, it's one thing to say that we have that concept and that it resonates with part of the brain. It's another thing to say that this is evidence of an existence outside of concept.
Good point, right? But I don't think that I'm trying to prove existence outside of concept, except for the fact it's linked to a physical realm inside the human mind.
But to say that it's linked to that, and not that that's where it exists, I guess is where we're having a disagreement or at least some sort of disconnect. I'm saying that the fact that it's in your head as a concept demonstrates the fact that it's in your head as a concept. I don't think it can be read as more than that, or at least I'm unaware of evidence that it should be read as more of that, as more than that.
Okay, then let's define existence then, because I think that would help as well.
Well, I believe concepts can exist, but I don't think that having a concept means that something inhabits, has its own manifestation in some way.
If the limbic system of part of the brain exists, I'm saying it's specifically linked there.
If you're saying that it manifests as mapping in that area, I would say fine. And I guess if that's all God would be, then I would say a person who holds that concept of God, I would probably embrace as an atheist.
Right. Well, I identify as an atheist who could explain the limbic system of the brain and how God exists.
Oh, see, they tagged you with a T. Yeah. And so I'm going to say I love our production group because they're awesome and they do all the screening, and I could not love them more for that. But yeah, I think I was coming at this from you doing more than just saying it's a concept in someone's head, because you were tagged as a theist. So I was like waiting for how does this get to theism? And what you're saying is
miscommunication. That's miscommunication on their part.
It's okay. No, I'm not. Yeah, and I'm not saying that like you lied to get priority calling. That is definitely not. I don't mean to imply that. I'm implying no.
Guys, they asked me if I'm a theist or an atheist, and I said I'm a nonconformist. Right.
Well, this is why we ask, though. Okay, this is why we ask, because we do give priority to theist callers. So people should be clear. Even if you don't like the labels, try to give us some indication, because we do say on the air and we do promote for the show that we take priority for theist callers. What I usually do is all the first callers that come in as theists, I will take those calls first, and then I take the atheists who have been waiting.
Fair enough.
Okay. No, I'm just explaining that for the audience, like people that are watching.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily for your benefit, because we're already on the call.
I'm in the UK. Obviously, you guys are in America, and there's a different audience.
Sure,
right?
sure.
I'm a long-time viewer.
Okay. Well, I don't think we disagree that God exists as a concept in your brain that can be mapped. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Hooray.
I think it's specifically linked to the limbic system of the brain, right?
And it may be.
I'm curious why you think that.
Well, I think he's saying that would be where the mapping would occur, and I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, based on what, like,
has
there been a study where they mapped God in that area? I think is what Jen is asking.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys can have a look at it and I don't know, maybe I can call in again and we can talk about the limbic system. But can I move on to something else?
We've got a bunch of callers.
Yeah, we usually don't do like more than a topic, and like we're on the second call and we're like at almost 5:30 here. I'll tell you what though,
I'm very curious if anyone has ever read any WikiLeaks in the studio at all. Has anyone ever read any WikiLeaks?
I don't
even head count.
Why would that be?
Yeah, why is that
at all?
Why are you
show?
asking this question?
because last week, Matt just hung up on someone and claimed they were a conspiracy theorist. But none of you have verified anything, and you call yourselves skeptics.
I don't know what this is about. Whoa. When have I ever called myself a skeptic?
Yeah.
I've watched the show for a long time.
Okay.
I have never called myself a skeptic.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But I am curious as to whether anyone has actually looked at WikiLeaks.
And just to let people know, that was not because I'm like, hey man, I'm no skeptic. Those skeptics are. No, it's that I'm not sure that I'm really that good at debunking stuff that I would label myself a skeptic. So I consider skeptics to be people that are far more skeptical than me and more capable of assessing claims than I am. So just FYI, well, I didn't want people to think I was like distancing myself for some negative reason. It's like, I just don't consider myself on that level. So I just sort of am like, I'm here, I'm talking, I'm having conversations, I'm thinking things through, we're fleshing stuff out. That's what's going on. If somebody else calls it skeptical, then that's what they call it. But I don't think that I'm on that level.
Fair enough. Okay, I don't want to label you like I would have to fit into one of your labels when I called in the show, right? It's not nice to be
sure. Well, I mean, we have to prioritize the calls, so yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. But maybe you need a third option, someone who's a non-conformist.
Or maybe you just need to answer the question because it's a binary question. You're either an atheist or a theist.
No, because today I've proved the existence of God within the limbic system of the brain.
No, you've proven the concept.
Right.
People think about it.
No atheist is going to say that there does not exist a concept of God in some people's heads. I mean, I don't know. I've never met that atheist. I've heard atheists who say that concept is irrational or that it doesn't make any sense and that it's ill-defined. But I have never heard somebody say that there's no such thing as a concept of gods.
It might make sense if you were tortured and you needed something to
what might make sense? No. They say that the concept doesn't make sense in the when people try to explain what their gods are. That they're like irrational and self-contradicting, and
I get that.
Okay.
I'm curious about WikiLeaks because you guys
don't know what
we don't give a fuck about WikiLeaks.
What is the thing with WikiLeaks?
Because guys, we live.
Yeah, I don't even know. So that's the end of that call, and we're going to move on because we have other calls. Whatever. If people want to read WikiLeaks.